the School of Journalism and Mass Communication at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. This is Carolina Week.
Good evening, I'm Brad Broders.
And I'm Michael Handy. Thanks for joining us for the March 24th edition of Carolina Week. Our top story tonight, the war in Iraq. Coalition forces are getting closer to Baghdad. Here are the latest headlines as of Monday afternoon, March 24th. Defense officials say 2 Marines from Camp Lejeune have died in separate incidents. Officials aren't releasing the details of their deaths. Neither of the soldiers is from North Carolina. Coalition forces are facing difficulties as they get closer to Baghdad. As of Monday afternoon, Iraqi soldiers claim to have shot down 2 helicopters and taken more prisoners. During the weekend, at least 20 American soldiers were killed or captured.
Waving signs not of protest but of support, demonstrators gathered Saturday to voice their appreciation for American troops abroad. Nearly 200 people came together at Community Center Park in Chapel Hill to listen to World War II veterans, ministers, and local leaders, all supporting President Bush and the military efforts in Iraq. After the speeches, the demonstrators marched on East Franklin Street to Elliott Road, where they gathered to sing patriotic song and waved as drivers honked car horns in support. Carolina graduate Aaron McKinney said the event shows that many Chapel Hill residents support the war.
There's been so many people, on the streets driving by saying, we're glad that you're here and honking, and there's, it's not that many people here that came to the rally. I guess maybe about 200, but the people on the streets, as you can hear the honking, I've been very surprised, and there hasn't been that much negativity. It's been very positive and a good experience.
Chapel Hill police officials say the demonstrators were peaceful and followed the proper precautions. Local Republican groups and the Chapel Hill American Legion Post sponsored the event.
The Franklin Street Post Office is often a hotspot for showing your support for or opposition to various causes. This weekend was busier than most. Carolina Week's Amanda Eiler has that story.
Ever since President George Bush declared war against Iraq, protesters against the war and supporters of the effort have taken to the streets. In Chapel Hill, many gather at the Franklin Street Post Office. Supporters and opponents of the war met head-to-head Thursday night, blocking traffic, chanting, and shouting opinions and insults at each other.
They need to know that these troops are fighting for them and for us and for all Americans, and that we should be very supportive of them.
Few rallies took place at the post office early in the weekend, but on Saturday evening it was business as usual. A small group of anti-war protesters assembled in front of the building. As the night went on, they were joined by several more protesters. Passing motorists shared their opinions also.
Someone just drove by and gave me the finger, and I said, that's your right to do that, and you need to protect it.
After an emotionally charged weekend, all that's left are some chalk drawings on the post office. The rallies are likely to start afresh with the beginning of a new week and the push by our troops toward Baghdad. In Chapel Hill, I'm Amanda Eiler, Carolina Week.
Both groups supporting and opposing the war say they'll continue to rally whenever possible.
As the war in Iraq continues, the concern about biological and chemical attacks against the U.S. is increasing. In a media briefing Monday, Public Health Dean Bill Roper said the key is prevention.
This is about prevention, and when prevention is successful, nothing happens.
In a briefing about North Carolina's preparedness for a bioterrorism attack, state and university experts talked about how North Carolina is dealing with a possible threat. State Health Director Leah Devlin says that should the need arise, North Carolina would have the capability to immunize the entire population with a smallpox vaccine. North Carolina isn't currently immunizing the general public. Devlin says North Carolina is prepared for a possible bioterrorist attack.
I'm asked often, are we ready in North Carolina? And what I can say is that we are far more ready now than we have ever been before.
The National Terror Alert remains at Orange Plus.
Most of us won't face any type of bioterrorism threat, but a challenge all Americans face is pushing away food portions that medical reporter Raja Jagadisan says are getting larger and larger, making many of us larger and larger.
Americans are eating bigger portions than ever before. That's the conclusion of a Carolina study published in a recent edition of the Journal of the American Medical Association. Researchers found food portions have increased at home, in restaurants, and at fast food establishments.
The trends were an increase in all three eating locations, particularly a large increase at home and in fast food.
Dr. Barry Popkin co-authored the study. He says fast food franchises are pushing the trend towards supersized meals.
One could speculate that they changed the portions, that they started the supersizing, they started pricing and pushing for increasing the amount of food consumed.
Let's look at how much these amounts have increased in the past few decades. These are average fast food portions of a 1977 cheeseburger, soft drink, and fries. These are the average portions today. Since 1977, the average cheeseburger portion has increased by a third, the average soft drink portion by half, and the average portion of fries has increased by 2/3. Study co-author Samara Nielsen says bigger portions can quickly lead to weight gain.
In our paper, we say, 10 calories, an extra 10 calories a day is a pound over a year. So if you're just drinking a larger soda a day than you were 5 years ago, just one larger soda by 49 calories, that's 5 pounds a year.
And those larger portions might have had an impact. Obesity rates in the U.S. have more than doubled from 15% in 1971 to 31% in 1999. Nielsen says it's important to keep in mind not just what you eat, but how much you're eating.
I mean, you would rather me tell you, okay, you can eat a cheeseburger, just eat a smaller one, than me say to you, don't eat cheeseburgers ever again.
Or just maybe not a supersized cheeseburger. In Chapel Hill, I'm Raja Jagadisan, Carolina Week.
Makes you want to grab a nice juicy burger, doesn't it?
Ooh, yummy.
Well, that does it for news.
But coming up, a review of all the weekend sports on Sports Spotlight. Have a good one.
Good night.
Mrs. Abruzzo, I'm Ed McMahon, and we're signing up people for...
Yes,
yeah. Mr. Murphy, Ed McMahon. We're starting up... No.
Dreams really do come true.
No.
Yes,
Ed McMahon, see.
Ed McMahon.
Yes, Ed McMahon. We're having our first ever...
McMahon.
Yes. Tuesday night at the high school. We're starting up the neighborhood watch in this area, and here's all the information.
Stevie, get down here, please.
No, it's just
5, 6, 7, 8.
No Tango Dinero. Neighborhood watch. We're having this neighborhood watch, the first one. Right.
Larry, put some pants on.
I'll come back.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Start a neighborhood watch. It's just one of the many ways you can help make America stronger. To find out how, call or log on for this free guide.
Welcome to this week's edition of Sports Spotlight. I'm Aaron Mesmer. Coming up, the women's tennis team plays 2 tough matches, and we'll show you a sport you might not have ever heard about. We'll start with baseball. After a 24-12 drubbing of Princeton, Carolina's baseball team was back on the diamond Friday afternoon, squaring off against conference foe Wake Forest in a 3-game set at Boshamer Stadium. Kyle Sleeth, one of the best pitchers in the nation on the hill for the Deacs. The Scouts are out in full force, and Sleeth doesn't disappoint as he pinks the corner against Carolina's Justin Webb. Tar Heel pitcher Gary Baker holds his own on the game and gets a little help from Carolina's D. But in the top of the 8th, Wake's Adam Barraza hammers one out of the Bosch and seals the game for the Deacs, 6-1. After taking the second game of the series 12-5, the Heels and Deacons played the rubber match on Sunday. Bottom of the first, tie game? Not anymore. Tar Heels catcher Ryan Blake doubles, and Sean Farrell comes around to score. The Heels put up 4 in the inning. Bottom 3, Carolina up 6-1, and an error leads to 2 more Tar Heel runs. To the 5th, with a runner on third, Chad Prosser singles through the hole, Heels up 9-1, and the rout is on. Carolina gets 15 hits en route to a 12-3 win. Farrell had 2 doubles, a home run, and 3 RBIs, and says winning the series against Wake was one of his priorities going into the season.
We all make goal sheets out, the beginning or the end of the fall, and I definitely put on there to beat Wake Forest in the series. So, this is a great feeling for me because I was 1-14 going into the game yesterday. So this is a great lift off my shoulders.
The women's basketball team faced a tough test in the former 14th seed Austin Peay in round 1 of the NCAA tournament Saturday. The Lady Governors, winners of 22 straight going into the game, got 30 points from senior Brooke Armistead. That kept her team close. But with the score tied at 70 and 20 seconds left, Carolina's Nikita Bell made a layup to give the Heels a 2-point victory. Carolina faces 6th seed Colorado in round 2 Monday. That game is in Boulder. Storyline is familiar. Carolina tries to upset Duke in a matchup of top 10 teams. The sport this time around? Women's tennis. The Heels are ranked 8th in the country, and Duke comes in with a 14-1 record and a number 4 ranking. Carolina scores an upset in the top doubles match as Aniela Moshes and Kendall Klein knock off second-ranked Amanda Johnson and Julie DeRue. Then all eyes are on Kate Pinchbeck and Kendrick Bunn. The pair takes Duke's Hillary Adams and Kelly McCain to a tiebreaker, but the Devils hang on to win the doubles point. Duke keeps its momentum going into singles, winning 5 of the 6 matches and beating the Tar Heels 6-1. It didn't get any easier for the Heels Saturday when they took on 10th-ranked Tennessee. After taking the doubles point, Carolina faced tough competition in singles. 4 of the 6 single matches go to 3 sets, but the Heels lose all 4, and Melissa Schaub wins in straight sets against Kendall Klein to give the Lady Vols a 5-2 victory. Carolina looks to break its 3-game losing streak against Florida State Saturday in Chapel Hill. Tole, also known as stickball, is a traditional Native American game that's been played for centuries. Brittany McGraw takes us on the field for an up-close look at this fast-paced and physical sport.
Kick off your shoes, pick up your sticks, and head on to the field. It's time to play stickball. Despite the name, stickball is not an ancient form of baseball or softball, but University of Georgia team captain Todd Crane says it's a unique Native American game that blends elements of different sports.
It's comparable to lacrosse in some ways, but without all those pads and rules that bind lacrosse. It's a lot like rugby because of the physicality of it.
Different Native American groups develop their own variations of the sport, and in the Choctaw game, teams can be any size, and Georgia player Lottie Feliciano says the object is simple.
The object of the game is to pick up the ball with your 2 sticks and throw it against the post. That's really the object of the game.
That sounds simple enough, and there are few rules. There are no timeouts, no fouls, no substitutions, and lots of hard hits.
Playing really hard and lots of adrenaline. By the end of the game, I got a little bit full of myself and tried to shoulder check a 280-pound Choctaw guy and just ran into him, and he didn't move. He was just like a brick wall right there. So I instead broke my collarbone on him. Just ran up to him and broke my collarbone, and that was beginning of the end of the game for me.
Stickball is more than just a game, it's history, and Native Americans have played it since the 17th century. According to Cherokee expert Jerry Wolf, the earliest games had great significance.
They used the game a lot for settling disputes, or maybe even purchasing land, purchasing any kind of materials.
Wolf says although interest in traditional games such as stickball decreased after World War II, the game remains a vital part of many Native American communities. In Chapel Hill, I'm Brittany McGraw, Carolina Week.
Although there isn't a Tole team at Carolina, stickball fans hope to have a Tar Heel team on the field in the fall of 2003. And finally in sports, this image from TarHeelBlue.com. Oh, for God's sake, Chad, congratulate me after I make the play. He blamed the sun for the error. We know the real reason, though. The problem's created when you're working with only 2 dimensions. Well, that does it. Thanks for joining us. Don't forget to tune into Carolina Week later this week. Good night.